Like in the early days when you were little and 5 feet tall, you want to be comfortable, have friends, and be in physical education. Despite being 80 years old, Danny DeVito's life narrative is quite depressing. According to his mother, she never desired him. Every night when his father drank, he became irate. The cops were summoned to their home 17 times before Danny turned 15. But that's not the worst part. Danny has been hiding a horrible secret for years. He suffers from a rare condition that makes life extremely difficult. He received large sums of money from Hollywood to get surgery and have his features changed. No, he responded and set the paper on fire. Now that he is 80 years old, the truth about his suffering is finally being revealed. At first, Danny DeVito had a difficult time. He was born in Neptune, New Jersey in 1944. From the beginning, the odds were against him. His mother, 40-year-old Julius, had reared multiple children. She had no desire to have any more. She bluntly told him years later, "I didn't want him, but I'm so proud of him." Anyone would be devastated by such an admission, but Danny took it as fuel for his fire. That early sense of rejection followed him around like a fog throughout his early years, and he never recovered. But he didn't let it affect him. He continued. He needed to demonstrate his importance, but his troubles didn't stop there. Home life was difficult to organize. During the day, his father, Daniel Sr., was a kind man. He and his Asbury Park sweet store were well liked. He changed, though, becoming raucous, irate, and even aggressive as night fell and the effects of the wine began to wear off. Daniel discovered how to listen for hints, such as the sound of bottles shattering or the shift in his father's gait. At other times, he rushed to the neighbors and hid in closets. Between 1950 and 1955, the police were summoned to their home at least 17 times. I was deeply impacted by these life events. He maintained his sobriety for many years, and in 1992, he even founded the Little Giant Support Group. More than 15,000 children from homes like him have benefited from it by receiving the assistance they require. At the age of 14, Daniel realized he had to go. His neighborhood was in ruins, and heroin was everywhere. 2 of his boyhood pals had passed away before he was 16, so he devised a scheme. He put a lot of effort into his studies, saved the $237 he made from odd jobs, and persuaded his church priest to speak with his parents. Oratory prep school was his intended destination. He managed his time well. Only when his father was intoxicated and guilty did he ask his parents for their approval. Despite feeling guilty about being rejected previously, his mother consented. That decision probably saved his life. At least 25 years of age were attained by 12 of those buddies. Only 3 of them remained alive after the age of 25. In addition, Danny suffered with Fairbanks disease, a rare genetic condition. He only reached 4'10" in height, but it wasn't just about that. He was constantly in pain, with his hips, knees, and back hurting. In his 20s and 30s, his pain level frequently remained between 6 and 8 out of 10, but he persisted, performing his own stunts and even falling 4 times during the filming of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, acting as though it was a necessary part of the part. He never developed a dependence on painkillers, despite the fact that doctors offered him them, and he discreetly donated more than $12 million to help pay for treatments for others with bone conditions similar to his own. He never put his name on the projects because he didn't want attention. He just wanted other people to suffer less. Before he became an actor, he worked as a beautician, a job that most fans wouldn't expect him to have. He trained for it, put in 1,500 hours, and graduated second in his class at beauty school. He worked in his sister Angela's salon, Curl Up and Dye, where he became so skilled that people scheduled appointments months in advance, and even won awards for a hairstyle known as the Neptune twist. He took it seriously, even though he began doing it merely to meet girls. Danny applied to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in 1962 to learn makeup, and when they asked him to do a monologue, he did a scene from The Rainmaker, and even though he had never done one before, it clicked, and they offered him a spot, not for makeup, but for acting. He didn't immediately accept. He returned to the salon, but 3 days later, the school called again and offered him a partial scholarship, and that second call changed his life. A few years later, he and Michael Douglas they ate stale bread and canned beans, and Douglas kept getting roles while Danny kept getting rejected, but they remained close. Years later, Douglas asked Danny to be cast in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and that was the role that changed everything. Before that big break, Danny had a rough time in Hollywood, getting only 3 small jobs totaling less than $800 between 1967 and 1970. working odd jobs like parking cars, cleaning cages at the LA Zoo for $100, and even standing motionless like a mannequin in a clothes store. He refused to change himself for fame, and his response to a casting director remained with him for years. "I'd rather be a first-rate version of myself than a second-rate version of someone else." He lived in his old VW Beetle for a while, took showers at the YMCA, and ate at soup kitchens. He kept this a secret for decades because Hollywood wanted to change him. Producers and agents wanted to have surgery to break and lengthen his legs, while others wanted to change the shape of his face. One studio even offered him nearly $1 million if he did, but he turned down the offer and set the contract on fire on the beach. His first roles were hard and paid little. He worked overnight shifts at a printing press to pay the rent for his first off-Broadway show, which paid $25 a week. He was depressed during that show and nearly quit. He got pneumonia while filming his first movie, which paid just over $200. He even slept in a barn to save money. His father's illness in 1972 prevented him from going home much, and his death devastated him. He applied for a postal job and considered quitting acting until the phone rang. It was about an audition for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The film was shot in a real mental hospital with real patients even used as extras. The setting was intense, which helped Devito bring something raw to his performance. He was only on screen for 5 minutes and 52 seconds, but he made an impression. Director Milos Forman stood by him, even when the studio wanted a bigger name. The film won 5 major Oscars, and although DeVito wasn't nominated, he was finally known due to his years of experience playing Martini on stage. When DeVito read the script, he knew he had to play Louis De Palma. Despite his agent's advice that switching from film to television was bad for your career, he followed his instincts, and during the audition, he stunned everyone with a full 7-minute monologue. ABC was apprehensive about his short stature. He was only 4'10", but creator James L. Brooks threatened to resign if they didn't cast him. He had that much faith in DeVito. Despite the fact that the contract was 40% less than what other performers were earning, Danny signed it immediately without even requesting extra money. That was the end of it. He had been rejected from about 200 auditions in the 3 years before to Taxi because he was too short, too odd-looking, or too different. However, he became a tremendous star after the show began broadcasting. It was unprecedented for a supporting character to receive over 11,000 fan mails in just 8 episodes. People admired Louis' awfulness and cruelty. Because of Louis alone, censors received 3 to 5 complaint letters per show. Before every scene, DeVito would sit by himself and write down the names of all the people who had rejected him. His performance benefited greatly from that rage and fire. By 1980, 93% of Americans were able to identify Louis De Palma based only on his outline or voice. Constructed to accommodate DeVito, his dispatch booth rose to prominence as one of the most renowned sets in television history. In 1980, DeVito took home a Golden Globe, and the following year, an Emmy. Although Louis De Palma wasn't a conventional hero or even a nice figure, everyone was in a state of astonishment and couldn't take their eyes off him. Since DeVito had been overlooked throughout the first season of the show, his Emmy win was all the more poignant. His final words upon receiving the trophy were, "Thank you. This brings me great joy." Taxi is currently the greatest TV program. In the history of the Emmys, it was the shortest award speech. DeVito defeated Jack Albertson, who was the favorite to win the Golden Globe that year. He wasn't even nominated by certain judges. However, his victory altered everything. It demonstrated that people may enjoy villains as well. TV was shaped by that concept for decades. In an attempt to hire him for their own program, NBC offered him $175,000 each episode, which was more than 11 times his Taxi earnings. He wanted to remain with the cast, therefore he declined them. DeVito met Rhea Perlman during all of that glory. Strangely enough, she came over to split up with DeVito's Flatwater while they were dating. She met Danny at that point, and they spoke for 6 hours that evening. Their chemistry was so genuine that everyone assumed it was just excellent acting, so the producers were unaware that they were dating. They made their covert move into Danny's small 450-square-foot flat after just 2 weeks. To prevent any favoritism, they maintained separate dressing rooms on set even after they were married in 1982. The majority of people are unaware that they were also collaborating behind the scenes. They established their own production firm, Jersey Films, in secret in 1983. They continued to film Taxi while doing it on the weekends and at night. After more than 40 years, they have collaborated on 17 projects and have even established a rule that they never miss more than 2 weeks of creative teamwork. That same year, he starred in the Oscar-winning film Terms of Endearment, which took home the Best Picture prize. He pilfered scenes from the 1984 film Romancing the Stone, which earned over $115 million on a budget of $10 million. In the follow-up, The Jewel of the Nile, he collaborated once more with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. In order to maintain his on-screen presence, he played a smaller part in Johnny Dangerously about the same time. Because of his intelligence, he was able to expand his profession and earn more film credits. However, his portrayal of a rapacious guy who refuses to pay a ransom when his wife is abducted in 1986 was a hit. Devito received a Golden Globe nomination for the film, which generated over $71 million at a cost of $7.5 million. His performance was so outrageous that it took center stage in the entire film. The fear of hatred did not frighten him. More opportunities resulted from that confidence. Devito directed his debut film, Throw Mama from the Train, in 1987. He secured the gig after telling the producers that he would only perform in it if he could also direct it. He even attempted to persuade Brian De Palma to attend, but his schedule didn't work out, and the filming took place all around Los Angeles. The actress who played Mama, Anne Ramsey, performed a lot of her own stunts. Her bruises did not deter her, even after surgery. Using a private track in Valencia, the last train scenario took 6 days to shoot. The film received positive reviews and received another Golden Globe nomination. Twins, which followed, had the audacious notion of starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and DeVito as long-lost twins. Ivan Reitman, the filmmaker, and the two leads decided not to accept any upfront payments. Rather, they would divide 40% of the earnings. Although it was a big risk, it was worthwhile. Globally, the film brought in $216 million, or over $500 million in today's currency. About $35 to $40 million was earned by each man. People's perceptions of DeVito were altered by the film. He was now a leading figure rather than only an odd supporting actor. He demonstrated that being good was enough to carry a movie. You didn't need to be tall or attractive. DeVito was working on something else while everyone was observing his acting career. He directed The Ratings Game, a television film He directed an Amazing Stories episode with Rhea in 1986, and he reunited with his co-stars from Romancing the Stone for The War of the Roses in 1989. The narrative was humorous, gritty, and relatable to many. The title even became a colloquial term for unpleasant divorces in Germany. The opening credits, created by design icons Saul and Elaine Bass, demonstrated that the film was something exceptional, and DeVito's distinctive style, funny, odd, and emotional, was evident. It was more than just a smash. It demonstrated DeVito's ability to lead and perform without becoming distracted. Then in 1992, he underwent a total transformation to play the Penguin in Tim Burton's Batman Returns. He spent hours wearing makeup to transform into the deranged villain Oswald Cobblepot. DeVito's performance was wild, eerie, and even melancholy. It wasn't just a costume. He was even nominated for Best Villain at the MTV Movie Awards because of how well-liked it was by fans. Years later, he stated that if Burton returned, he would be delighted to portray the Penguin once more. DeVito didn't stop there either. In the same year, he directed the somber film Hoffa, which focused on labor leader Jimmy Hoffa. DeVito performed alongside Jack Nicholson, who played Hoffa. He collaborated with renowned author David Mamet to make it replete with rants, rage, and power battles, marking a significant departure from comedies. It was clear from one phrase in the trailer that DeVito could handle huge, difficult stories. "We are going to march and get what we came down here for." DeVito also took a different approach in 1992, launching Jersey Films, his own production firm. He collaborated with Michael Schemberg and then Stacey Sher to create one of the most prosperous independent studios of the 1990s, so it wasn't just for show. DeVito's goal was to locate excellent screenplays and assist in turning them into motion pictures, which he accomplished. The industry would later be transformed by Jersey Films. They took a big chance on a wacky script called Pulp Fiction in 1994. Something dark, weird, and entirely unique had been penned by Tarantino. Jersey Films supported it by providing funding and office space to Tarantino's company when another studio rejected it. Only $8 million was allocated in all. Tarantino delivered on his promise that the film will have a $25 million budget. It became a classic once it was released in theaters in October 1994. DeVito directed the 1996 film Matilda, which was adapted from Roald Dahl's novel. Rhea Perlman, his wife, was cast as Matilda's mother, and he played her evil father. The behind-the-scenes activities were just as special as the film itself. Mara Wilson, the young celebrity, was coping with her mother's cancer. She was regarded like family by Perlman and DeVito. In order for Wilson to view the film before her mother passed away, Devito even carried a nearly finished version to the hospital. Wilson would thereafter remark that they were her favorite uncle and aunt. Jersey Films continued to produce original films. Man on the Moon, a film about comic Andy Kaufman, was released in 1999. He co-produced the movie and played Kaufman's manager this time. Despite Jim Carrey's strong portrayal as Kaufman, the film's box office success was poor. Nevertheless, Devito stuck with the film because he valued the narrative over the box office. Devito was concealing a severe secret during all of this success. He suffered with Fairbanks disease, a rare bone condition that produced excruciating agony all the time. He underwent numerous surgeries, but the discomfort persisted. Hollywood advised him to be silent because they believed he would lose his job if he appeared weak, so he persisted even though it was painful to stand. After years of silence, he finally opened up about his illness in 2025. For himself and other people who suffer in silence, he wanted medical professionals to take it seriously. The Beverly Hills residence that Devito and Perlman have owned since 1994 was sold in 2015. With a wine cellar, gym, art studio, 2 pools, and 14,579 square feet spread across 2 acres, it was enormous. It had everything. However, by that point, their 3 children, Jake, Grace, and Lucy, were grown, so the sale represented more than just financial gain. It marked the end of a chapter in the family's history. Devito became a member of the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia cast in 2006. The network initially didn't want him, because he was too well known. Some didn't want to bring him on, but Rob McElhenney, the show's creator, put up a strong fight and it was successful. Ratings increased by 227%. Despite earning 10 times that amount in his prime, Devito only received a meager $70,000 every episode. By 2010, his role as Frank Reynolds had made him more well-known to younger audiences. When it came to humor, Devito didn't hold back. Although it wasn't in the script, he made headlines in 2007 when he slid across the floor nude and covered in hand sanitizer. In a different episode, he emerged from a couch wearing heavily perspiration-dampened makeup. Despite getting a rash, he continued. He even bathed in garbage water in 2013. But he was in a lot of suffering behind the scenes. When someone asked if it was too much, he said, "At my age, vanity is just another word for missed chance." Physicians discovered significant disc degeneration in his back in 2008. By 2010, he was in excruciating discomfort for about half of his filming days. He took hot and cold baths, bounced on a small trampoline, had 4 hours of treatment in the mornings, and even hung upside down in his trailer for a waterslide scene. Despite breaking blood vessels in his eye during the 19 takes, the scene from 2011 made it into the final cut. After 30 years of marriage, Devito and Perlman parted ways in 2012. When it was revealed that Devito had been seeing a considerably younger woman on set while putting in long hours, everyone was astonished. They made 38 attempts at therapy but were unsuccessful. They were then spotted holding hands once more in 2013. The same location where they had their first date was rented out by him. After making another attempt and remaining together for 4 more years, they finally broke up in 2017. They figured out a way to divide their money out of court, so they never officially divorced. Devito purchased a home less than a mile from Perlman's in 2019. As before, they met at the same table at the same restaurant each month and continued to speak on Wednesdays and Sundays. At one point, according to their kid, they texted each other while viewing the same Netflix series from different houses. Devito donated $5 million to a New Jersey hospital in July 2023. He was born in this hospital, not just any hospital. The Jersey Shore University Medical Center was once known as Raleigh Fitkin Paul Morgan Memorial. The donation of $500K wasn't a publicity stunt, it was a form of reciprocation. In terms of clinical care, the hospital had recently been placed in the top 5% of the country. Its most pressing patient requirements were partially covered by Devito's donation. He was commended by Hackensack Meridian Health CEO Robert Garrett for realizing the impact of giving. Devito actually cared about healthcare and wanted to make a real difference, according to his old friend Peter Cancro, who founded Jersey Mike's Subs. Danny Devito has long utilized his celebrity to advocate for causes ranging from politics to healthcare and the environment. Additionally, some claim that it has cost him, even though he has never been bashful expressing his beliefs. Although there isn't any concrete evidence, there have been rumors. One recent video claims that Devito's candor has offended certain Hollywood insiders. According to the same video, he was subtly pushed out of various parts when he started talking about his physical issue, Fairbanks disease, a rare malady that inhibits bone formation. According to the report, he began advocating for people with impairments and questioned why Hollywood continues to uphold limited ideals of beauty. According to the video, he was even under pressure from producers to undergo experimental treatments in order to appear more normal. Although none of this has been verified by trustworthy sources, the concept raises the question, how much does honesty actually cost in the entertainment industry? It has become his personal mission to support children's hospitals that cure bone ailments. It's difficult to live with Fairbanks' sickness. It results in early onset arthritis, stiffness, and joint pain. According to reports, Devito concealed this for years, enduring the agony while carrying on with his acting, directing, and producing career. However, he has now begun to discuss it, not only for himself but also for children who lack access to treatment or who have no one to advocate for them. He wants Hollywood to stop acting like only one type of body belongs on screen. He wants better treatment and he wants more research. However, things haven't always gone as planned. Danny Devito made headlines once more in May 2025. What began as a routine interview swiftly descended into chaos. It was all smiles and jokes initially, but by the second part, tension had set in. The origin of the disagreement is unknown, but it got so bad that Devito had to leave the set. Security had to intervene to prevent things from growing worse, not to escort him away. The video became viral. There were videos and hashtags like Ood Devito Unleashed and Ood Danny V's Kimmel everywhere. There was a lot of discussion about it. He received praise from some, who saw it as an uncommon instance of genuineness in a world full of staged lines and phony grins. Not everyone was so kind. They said he wasn't acting professionally, and referred to it as a meltdown. When more comedians joined in, the argument became even more heated. Actors are frequently pushed too far, according to Bill Burr, who defended him. On their shows, Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert joked about the entire situation. All of a sudden, this was a pop culture event rather than just a clumsy interview. Devito was not silent for long. He wrote candidly on the internet a few days later, "I stand by everything I said. Sometimes the truth isn't easy to hear, especially under the lights." The post only fueled the fire. Reports started coming out that some of his upcoming appearances had been canceled or postponed. No official word, but whispers of a quiet blacklisting began to spread. Jimmy Kimmel, trying to smooth things over, made a statement of his own. "I have nothing but admiration for Danny. One day I hope this will make us chuckle." The damage or notoriety had already been done. Despite all the commotion, Danny Devito hasn't disappeared. He continues to work and create stuff. He is 79 years old and producing a series of sports documentaries for Prime Video. Devito claims to be a strange sort of sports lover, and his children Jake and Lucy are also working on it. He defies convention, which appeals to some people. Since season 2, which debuted in 2005, he has been playing Frank Reynolds in the television series It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Before Devito joined, the show was struggling, but he helped to turn things around. Because of his incredible energy and timing, it became a cult success. After over 2 decades, people still like him, and he's still planning, screaming, and getting out of seats.